Today in the show we're going to be recapping season 2 of Killing Stalking. Also there'll be a giveaway, details are in the comments down below. This picks up exactly where season 1 left off. Bum has just killed this girl, he's freaking out, he's like, what if she calls the police? Oh wait, she can't, she's dead. Meanwhile, Sang-woo's really pissed off that Bum just said he doesn't feel anything, because he's spent ages planning this whole thing out, and this is not the reaction he wanted. So he decides he's bored with Bum, picks Bum up, picks up all of Bum's stuff, and goes to kick him out. Then Bum runs inside, hides under the bed covers, and then the two of them start to have sex. Bum tries to resist at first, but then he eventually gives in, and he starts saying how he wants to stay by Sang-woo's side forever, how he just always wants to be with Sang-woo and no one else. And then Sang-woo's happy about this and starts shouting about how it's Bum's fault the man died before, and it's Bum's fault that girl downstairs is dead. He's like really manipulating Bum into taking responsibility for these two murders when actually one of them's kind of his fault and the other one he's just not his fault. Meanwhile, at the police station, the girl's friends are being questioned, but the police sort of have this attitude of, she's a student, she'll turn up. Back with Bum and Sang-woo, they're going on a road trip, and this road trip seems to be a long one because Bum actually falls asleep for a while. Things are going relatively okay. Obviously, it's a bit awkward because it's Killing Stalking. Until they eventually stop for apples, and Sang-woo tells this story about how he came along here one time with his mother and his father, and he and his mother shared apples. As he bites into one of the apples, he starts bleeding from his mouth. He tries to get Bum to find tissues, but then this causes them to hit a deer. A couple passing by actually helped tow the two boys to the hotel they were headed to anyway. When they get there, there's this bag that Sang-woo almost freaks out at this old man for touching, but then Sang-woo's just like, you know, you're too old, you shouldn't be picking up things that are heavy. Sort of giving like this really bitchy compliment. That's the only way I can describe it. Then after checking in, the two boys go on a hiking trail. They eventually get to a part of the trail and Bum steps on something and Sang-woo starts freaking out at Bum. Bum doesn't understand what's going on, but Sang-woo leaves a shovel and some rope in this spot. Later that night, while the two boys are having a bath, it actually turns out that that's the spot where Sang-woo buried his own father. There's also like this really twisted romantic kind of moment where the two boys are in a bath and Sang-woo's like, when I'm with you, I know exactly what I have to do. And it's like, oh, please don't say that. Please, you kill people. Later that night, Bum wakes up to find Sang-woo taking his clothes off of him. And Bum doesn't understand what's going on until he sees the body of the dead girl next to him. And Sang-woo's like, if you make a mess, you have to clean it up. And that's when it all becomes clear to Bum that they are there to bury the body of that dead girl. Then we have a scene with the police officer. He's still very shaken by going to Sang-woo's house, and he's still very suspicious of Sang-woo. So to take the body out of the hotel without being caught, they actually dressed the body up as Bum. Then Sang-woo carried the body out on his back as if he's giving Bum a piggyback ride, and then Bum sneaks out 10 minutes later, almost naked. Bum actually has to do all the digging and stuff himself. Sang-woo takes no part in it because he really wants Bum to take responsibility for this murder. There's actually a point where Bum falls in the hole with the body and Sang-woo jumps in and presses Bum's face against the ground so he's forced to look at the body. And Sang-woo's like, you know, you had a crap life before because you never did anything for yourself, but things will be different now, Mr. Murderer. And it's like, intense to read. Back at the police station, Sung-bae is actually cleaning off one of the patrol cars when Sang-woo's friends actually leave the station after another round of questioning. And here the kids reveal to Sung-bae that Sang-woo was actually with them, but he left early. So now Sung-bae is sure that he's just missing one piece of vital information to prove that Sang-woo is guilty. But none of the other police particularly like him or take him seriously, so he ends up forcing one of the other police officers to let him into the case file so he can try and figure things out for himself. So there's actually a prime suspect, a man called Kim Seo-ko, who's actually the man from the gay bar that Sang-woo killed. This man had actually been missing for a while at the time of that girl's death, so that means he had to have been another victim. And that makes sense, so whoever used his phone to get the girl out must have also killed him. But there was one major plot hole in this. Seo-ko had actually been kicked out of home recently after a divorce. His wife actually ended up getting all the money and the house. The police officer thinks there's something wrong about that. He thinks that's a little bit too extreme for a divorce, so he goes to see the woman. The woman at first won't talk, but then she reveals that her husband turned out to be gay, and that's why the divorce was so extreme. So he goes to a gay bar and finds someone that's 18 years old and is drinking underage. Keep in mind, he's undercover at this time and he does not have permission to be doing this investigation. He asks the kid if he recognizes the guy, the kid tries running away, and then Sung-bae reveals that he's a police officer and threatens to hand in the kid for underage drinking if he doesn't talk. The kid reveals that the two of them had slept together in the past and he used to frequent a different club. So the police officer goes to the other club, speaks to the manager, and the manager's like, oh, that guy? Yeah, he basically lived here. The man didn't see who he was with the last time he was there though, so it was just a dead end. But because he was getting somewhere, even if it was just leading to more and more dead ends, just strengthened his conviction against Sang-woo. Then there's this really weird chapter that involves Sang-woo and Bum meeting a bully from Bum's past, and they do this stupid competition to get a cake, and Sang-woo wins, but the bully let leak that Bum's uncle was abusive. So Sang-woo makes Bum talk about the abusive uncle while they wait for the cake to defrost. It was a really weird chapter. It made me want cake. So there's a lot to this backstory, and I do encourage you to read Killing Stalking because I feel like it's told properly in the actual comic. But put in its most basic form, Bum's uncle used to be in a relationship with Bum's mother, but then she left him for Bum's father. Bum's uncle ends up taking out a lot of his frustrations about his entire life on Bum. This eventually escalates into full-blown rape. It's also worth mentioning this man was a heavy alcoholic. The only person that was ever in Bum's corner was Bum's grandmother. And after finding all of this out, Sang-woo calls Bum disgusting, gets up. Bum starts freaking out, thinking Sang-woo will want to leave him. So Bum gets up, cuts his wrist on a knife to try and get Sang-woo's attention, ends up passing out from blood loss. Sang-woo doesn't take this seriously at first and just wanders down to the basement. Then when he gets back up and is like, hey Bum, get up, why are you just pretending to sleep? And he realizes, no, Bum passed out from blood loss. Sang-woo freaks out, takes Bum upstairs, bandages up his wrists, and then falls asleep with a passed out Bum. These kids need help. They need so much help. Like, they're too dangerous to go to prison. Like, they need to be locked up because they kill people, but they need help. Then through a dream sequence, we actually get to know Sang-woo a bit more. Turns out his deepest fear is becoming like his father. He doesn't want to be like his father, but he's subconsciously aware of the way that he's treating Bum echoes the way that his father treated his mother. When Bum gets up, Sang-woo's already awake, so the two of them go into a bath together. Here, Sang-woo says that he doesn't think Bum is disgusting and he understands that Bum couldn't reject his uncle. But then when Bum outright rejects Sang-woo's advances, Sang-woo freaks out and starts saying to Bum, are you rejecting me because you think I'm like my father? And then he just sticks Bum's head under the water and tries to drown Bum. Bum manages to survive, but he passes out once again, and Sang-woo's there just crying into his hands, saying that he's not like his father. Skipping forward a bit, the body of the girl from the very beginning of the series is found. You know, the girl from chapter 1. So the police officer meets up with one of his friends from the task force to try and get more information on this case. And he obviously doesn't get any information because he's not a detective anymore. He can't get that type of information, but he does manage to confirm one of his suspicions. The girl did have trauma to her legs. And the police officer, when he looked through the peephole of Sang-woo's house, saw Bum's damaged leg. So the police officer actually follows Sang-woo to his part-time job one night, and that night he just happened to take Bum with him. When Bum goes to the bathroom, the police officer follows Bum in there and begins to interrogate Bum. Bum doesn't say anything and manages to escape when Sang-woo comes into the bathroom, and Sang-woo doesn't find the police officer. Also, Bum doesn't say anything about what just happened to him, so if he said something, that whole thing could have been fixed, but I guess Bum might be scared that Sang-woo's gonna go and kill this guy. But while interrogating Bum, he did see Bum's ankle injury, and he's like, I know that's from a metal object. That couldn't have been from an accident. So he waits till Sang-woo goes out, breaks into the home, finds Bum, explains that he suspects Sang-woo of murder and that he wants to take Bum in to get a testimony. But Bum's obviously like, what are you talking about? But does Sang-woo like that? No way. Because obviously, if he gives a testimony, he has to talk about how he killed a girl. Sung-bae is trying to force Bum to come with him. Meanwhile, Sang-woo parks up outside. Sang-woo comes in, Sung-bae hides in the basement. Obviously, Sung-bae gets found, and Sang-woo has a knife. A fight breaks out. It goes all through the house, and it finishes on the floor with Sung-bae at knife point, seconds away from death. He luckily manages to reach for his taser and shock Sang-woo till he passes out. And he calls the detectives to bring both Sang-woo and Bum in for questioning. The detective turns up, but he warns Sung-bae if Sang-woo turns out to be innocent, Sung-bae is probably going to be arrested. The entire interrogation and questioning chapters are really hard to explain. They're really, really well done if you read them, so I do encourage everyone to go and read them on Lesin. Like, I can't stress that enough. But they are really hard to explain because there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of different character threads going on. So when Sungbei reveals all of his suspected evidence to the task force, Sang-woo actually notices that he makes it seem as if Detective Lee was the one that did the arrest. So Sang-woo points out that it was actually Sungbei that did the arrest, which causes doubt amongst the detectives. And then Sang-woo claims that he mistook Sungbei for Bum's ex-boyfriend, which is why he freaked out at him, especially because he had already turned up at the house once before without a warrant. So Sang-woo just assumed the police badge was fake. He's obviously lying through his teeth, but, you know, we've all got to have a talent, and this is clearly Sang-woo's talent. Then Sungbei tries to push a wrench in the works by asking Bum what his relationship to Sang-woo is, and then Sang-woo begins to answer every question for Bum, and he says that they're dating, but keep the fact that they're gay a secret so they don't go out on dates. Bum, meanwhile, in response to this, is like, we're dating? Oh my god, I'm so happy. Like, this kid needs help. He needs so much help! Sungbei has the two of them fill out forms about where the two of them met, each other's zodiac sign, and so on. But again, Sang-woo is able to manipulate the situation by instructing Bum to act as if his memory is bad by saying to one of the other officers very loudly, Bum's memory isn't too good. They then let Bum go home. While at the house, Detective Lee picks up more evidence and leaves, and that's when Bum's uncle turns up. Bum runs into the house trying to keep the uncle out, but fails, and the uncle smashes Bum to the floor. Bum kicks his face, runs to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and Bum's uncle doesn't take him seriously, so Bum lunges at the guy, cutting his hands, and so he leaves. Bum passes out in the kitchen, and then when he wakes up, he's actually being called in for more questioning. Bum is being quiet, and then he eventually starts standing up for Sang-woo. This makes Sungbei freak out. He goes outside, starts punching Sang-woo, and that's when the police chief turns up, and the police chief thinks that Sang-woo's innocent, so this whole thing's a mess. By the way, Sang-woo had been locked in a police car this entire time. The police chief would basically tell Sungbei to never come back, like this case is closed. The police then promise Sang-woo and Bum that Sungbei will never bother them again, basically implying either an arrest or a warrant or a restraining order or something like that. The two boys then go home, and Sang-woo beats the living daylights out of Bum for betraying him, because if Bum had just been honest about there being a guy in the basement, none of this would have happened. None of it would have happened. And then Sang-woo and Bum have sex on their front porch, and then they move it into their hallway, and season 2 ends there. I really want to talk about how Sang-woo and Bum fill out the entire checklist for borderline personality disorder. You only need to have, I think, 6 of these 9 things to have borderline personality disorder. Obviously, if you do have 6 of them, it might not necessarily mean you do have borderline personality disorder, but there's a good chance. Regularly feeling hollow or empty inside. Well, we've seen Bum feel like this repeatedly through the series, the times where he just shuts off. I take that as he's feeling hollow or empty inside. I don't really think we've seen Sang-woo feel like this, but we haven't seen enough of him. Like, we saw way more of him in season 2, but there were entire chapters that were just Bum in season 1. Frequent uncontrollable anger. That is Sang-woo. 100% Sang-woo. Recurrent and intense mood changes. We've seen this in both Sang-woo and Bum, how Bum can 1 minute go from being very shy and very sort of out of it to, oh my god, Sang-woo says he loves me, oh my god. And then obviously, especially in this season, you had Sang-woo, especially in the bath scene, who was like, I really care for you, Bum, and then he just freaked out. Unstable relationships that change quickly and often. I don't really need to elaborate on this one. Unstable self-image that changes quickly and often. I don't think that Bum or Sang-woo really display this one. I'm not entirely sure. We might see more of that in season 3, because we really don't know what Sang-woo thinks of himself, and we also don't know what Bum thinks of himself. We only know what Bum thinks of Sang-woo and vice versa. Engaging in impulsive, dangerous behavior. While they were on the road trip, it was implied that Sang-woo was speeding. We've seen Bum cut himself a few times at this point. Frequent fears that others will abandon or reject you, which causes you to try and prevent it somehow. For example, you leave them first. So again, in the bath scene, you had Sang-woo freaking out that Bum was rejecting him, and Bum's entire character plot is around the fact that he wants to leave Sang-woo because he knows that's better for him, but at the same time, he knows Sang-woo's not good for him. Occasional feelings that you are outside your body. So what the checklist is really saying there is dissociative episodes, which is a lot more than being outside your body. It can be full-on hallucinations, full-on actions that you believe have happened, then it turns out they haven't happened, and Bum has displayed this multiple times. I'm not entirely sure if Sang-woo's done this, but Bum definitely displayed it multiple times. I wasn't counting, but I think both of those boys filled out most of those things. Bum definitely more than Sang-woo, but both of them display a large number of traits of borderline personality disorder. And so that's why I find this series so fascinating, because medically speaking, it is going along the path of these two boys both have this disorder, but apparently this was not intentional. So I really want to see where this is going to go in season 3. Apparently it's starting soon. I heard some stuff through the grapevine. I can't confirm that, but I'm really excited. I can't wait for season 3, and I think it's going to be a good one, especially after that enter season 2. Like, where else can it go? It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. Make sure to check the comments down below for the giveaway, but also let me know what you think of Killing Stalking overall. I really want to know. But also don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, do all of my social links, and I will see you next time.